Hello everyone, this is L Spectral. Welcome back to the Land of Empires. And today I want to review the performance of Season 10 heroes in the Apex Arena. Now, before we dive into that topic, I want to go over a couple very interesting outcomes based on rallies that we performed during the Battle of Destiny versus NXX Nexus, as well as Server 75 game, which is currently called Home. But one thing that stood out immediately, whether you have Awakened Season 10 heroes or non Awakened Season 10 heroes, is that it appears to be heavily, and by that I mean very heavily, hard countered by 776. So this has been a fairly popular team back in Season 7. It stood at a similar popularity level compared to 547. So you either ran this kind of setup or you equipped Neptune Arc, for example, with Kellerman's Armor or Michael's Armor, but the setup overall was relatively similar. And that setup was played together with 547, which is basically the Leona setup. And those two teams came hand in hand back in Season 7. However, after Season 8, the Season 8 teams hard countered this particular Season 7 team as well as any Leona teams, and therefore it kind of fell out of favor. But whether you are using the Season 10 infantry cavalry in combination with the Season 9 archer, which is fairly popular, or whether you're running a full Season 10 team, so together with the Season 10 archer, that team performs disastrously versus 776. And if we took a look at the actual damage dealt, we can see that a majority of that damage came from the normal attacks. So somehow Dorothy, or maybe it's Neptune Arc, confers it just breaks down the enemy team. I don't know how they do it. Back in Season 7, there were some quirks where the cavalry apparently made the infantry very, very tanky to anyone besides Leona, pretty much. And why this is the case, I cannot give any interpretation. Like, I cannot make any interpretations based on the skill description, because the skill description should not lead to this kind of outcome. So in this case, I don't have the battle replay, but what happens is that the battle ends very, very quickly. Due to the protection confirmed by Lisbeth, this team does not really take too much damage from Titanio, as you can see here. While we are able to deal a lot of damage with the Titanio, but the majority of the damage comes from the normal attack. After the first few seconds of the battle, it just completely breaks down, and the enemy team pretty much melts. Looking at some of the other reports, the way you can kind of prevent that is to run the Season 8 Archer. Don't ask me why that works, but if you ran Cyrus the second instead of Emperor Qing as the archer, together with the Season 10 cavalry and infantry, you will not take much damage. Well, 776 will not hard counter you. It can still deal some damage to you, as you can see in this kind of report. I basically ran Cyrus instead of Emperor Qing. Had I ran Emperor Qing, I might have died here. I'm not too sure whether 776 still counters Season 10 when you are attacking rather than defending, but it definitely deals a lot of damage. But if you run Cyrus instead, you can mitigate that hard counter. However, the Cyrus variation is actually weaker than the Emperor Qing variation, so you gotta kind of have like a triangular counter relation in this scenario. But anyways, that is just some rally tidbits. Fairly interesting. I think the most popular composition right now is the Emperor Qing or Cyrus variation. Just when you are running Emperor Qing for attack, make sure that your HQ is situated as close to the enemy flag as possible. And that way, the enemy will not have enough time to react to your incoming rally, and they will not be able to switch to a 776 setup in time. But anyways, for this video, I want to kind of focus on the Apex Arena and to really get an idea of the Season 10 performance. I kind of want to look at whether the Season 10 Archer can actually perform under any circumstance. Because right now, based on our observations, it seems that the Season 10 Archer, it just dies without dealing any damage across all the combat tests that we have done. So here we have Emperor Qing against absolutely nothing. So I mostly want to look for results where one or the other ran the season 10 archer. And here we can see the season 10 archer being ran in this composition. So 8-8-10. 8-8-9 is a popular composition. So 8-8-10 in theory should be quite good against. I wouldn't say it should be quite good because 8-8-9 I believe actually somewhat gets countered by this team. But let's just take a quick look at this report. And we see that how much damage is the archer able to deal. We can see that Genghis Khan deals very, very little damage. And if we look at the stat comparison, the difference is not terribly huge. So we can take a look at the battle itself. And Genghis Khan kind of has two issues. Of course, as you can see from that report, he's not able to really deal any damage. But his biggest issue actually is that he does not have self-protection. So he tends to die from a lot of things. And let's see if that's the case in this battle. So the vulnerability of the archer in this setup will definitely be the cavalry. Once the cavalry uses his ultimate skill, the skill itself may not do a lot of damage, but the aftershock, I think that's the first passive of the Season 6 Cavalry. Yes, it kills him instantly. But anyways, let's move on to the second war zone and see if there's any more interesting applications of the Season 10 Archer. And here we have Harris, one of the strongest players in the game, versus someone less known. Let me check. So he does look quite strong, but I actually do not know who this is. Interesting. Let's check the stat comparison. So he is, of course, much, much weaker than Harris. Based on these stats, he looks to be around the 100 million lord power range. So definitely not weak. But of course, compared to Harris, he is quite weak. But let's see how much damage the archer is able to deal against this popular Season 9 setup. I am quite looking forward to this. So just normal attack. The archer actually does not use his rage skill. So does that indicate either he died before he could launch the rage skill? But in my first impressions video, I did mention that Awakened Jeanne of Arc should be able to confer some degree of protection towards the backline archer due to her awakening skill, due to her rage skill. Her awakening skill allows her to unleash her rage skill at the very beginning of the fight, thereby conferring a lot of protection. So 60% reduced rage skill as well as normal attack damage to the backline archer. And in my first impressions video, which I recently uploaded, I was hoping that would allow the backline archer to survive a hit from Lu Bu, which does not appear to be the case. But we can see that Khufu immediately took a lot of damage. And I think that is very interesting. Although one thing to note is that Khaleesi here is much, much weaker than Harris. So let's see who dealt the most damage here. So it is dealt by the cavalry. So if Batty ran the Season 9 Archer here, I think this team would simply have been wiped in the first 5 seconds. Yeah. But we saw that the cavalry just got one shot by Lu Bu despite Jeanne of Arc's utilization of her rage skill, which to me really doesn't make sense because that rage skill really should confer a lot of protection towards the backline archer. Does this indicate that you can see she uses her rage skill right away? Does this indicate, so it either indicates two things. The first thing is that the rage skill actually does not last as long as it is advertised. It advertised that it lasts 12 seconds, but it might only last maybe 3 seconds. We can possibly get a clue on that with the damage that the infantry is receiving from the opposing side. So let's take a look at that. So at the very beginning of the battle, she uses her awakening skill. The first hit is 250, 91. So 250 dropped to 91, and now it dropped to 81, 68. So the skill is definitely active, I would say. I do not see like a lot of damage being dealt to the infantry for the duration of that report. However, the archer still took over 100,000 damage from the opposing cavalry. And yeah, I just feel like her awakening skill is not being applied to, maybe it's only applied to herself. Just look at that. Like, the archer is completely useless. He is not doing anything. So moving on to Batty versus Joe Zero. So in the first fight, we can see that, of course, the archer dies. The archer always dies. But anyways, so this is against another popular Season 9 composition consisting of 998. And we have the armament variation of the Season 10 cavalry combined with the other two heroes. So let's see whether the archer is able to deal too much damage. So the difference between this report and the previous report is that this report does not have Lu Bu. And as you know, Lu Bu's awakening skill gives him 200% extra normal attack damage. And I believe that is very potent against the backline archer, because the normal attack, I mean the damage that the backline archer gets hit by is the normal attack. So let's see if, yeah, the archer still does not do much damage at all. Oh my god, goodness. This is, like, Joe Zero is also one of the strongest players in the game. We can see that his stats are significantly higher than Cassine, the other player that we just took a look at. Probably closer to 150 million Lord power, if not maxed already. So let's take a look at this particular replay. And I kind of want to pay close attention once again to the backline archer. So at the beginning of the fight, let's take a look at the damage. So 295, it drops down to 117. So that is a 60%. That is more than a 60% reduction. So the archer took 41,000 damage. Holy, and he dies. What killed him? What in God's name killed him? Like, the first hit I can understand, that is the cavalry's piercing attack against the backline archer. But what ended up killing him in the second hit? So, okay, so assault the backline. Oh, the infantry killed him. How? Excuse my surprise here, but how did the infantry kill the backline archer? That is ridiculous. Anyways, so after the archer dies, the Batty is still able to win simply due to the overwhelming, I mean, not overwhelming, but simply due to the power of the Season 10 infantry and cavalry. But the archer is really not helping here. Yeah, that is really sad to see. Like, the infantry, I don't expect her to do any damage, because that is how she is designed. She is designed to protect. But at the same time, it appears that she is failing to protect the backline archer, which is kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. Anyways, let's go to the third war zone and hope that we can see something interesting, something more interesting from the Season 10 archer. So they are not running it. I would say that they are doing the correct move here by not running the absolute garbage Season 10 archer. Let's take a look at the other side. JFK versus TTE or TT Sigma. We do not see the Season 10 archer or any presence of Season 10 in that, either. So General versus Mekko. We have the Season 10 archer here, and it does appear that it is able to, deal with a bare bones leftovers of the Season 8 and Season 19. So let's see if the archer dealt some damage here. Dealt some normal attack damage, but that is just any archer. Any archer is able to deal normal attack damage. That is not very interesting. In the following report, so we can see that he actually did okay versus General's fairly random team. I don't think this is a real composition. I don't think this team will see that much use in the Season 10 meta, but I think it's a pretty interesting team overall. And it has seen some application towards rallies. But anyways, the Season 10 archer, he was able to actually unleash his ultimate for once. But I think part of the reason is simply because Lisbeth's makes your team deal absolutely no damage for the first 15 seconds, and therefore the archer is able to actually, launch an ultimate attack. But let's take a look at the replay, simply because I kind of want to see what his ultimate attack looks like. Like, I don't think across all of these replays I've ever seen the Season 10 archer launch his ultimate attack once. And another thing I want to pay attention to is how fast his rage skill charges. So every 3 seconds he gains 20%. So now I'm trying to find the animation. So yeah, it's kind of hidden behind all these Titanio skills. So he just used his ultimate attack again, and I'm not seeing the animation. Is there an anim? Well, he's dead now, so I'm not too sure what the animation was, but his team kind of died, so against kind of a non-meta build. So I don't know. Moving on to Crimson Knight versus Tyrus, both very strong players. We can see that Crimson Knight is using the Season 10 Archer here, only to lose to Tyrus's very non-meta team. So let's take a look at what happened here. Wow, this is a very, very bad loss. Wow. Well, I mean, admittedly, he didn't use too many troops, but one thing that we can say for sure is that Gilgamesh really doesn't mesh very well with Kellerman, I guess. I think Gilgamesh pairs quite well with Jean of Arc. I'm not too sure about him in combination with other heroes. But anyways, yeah, not too much to see here. Like, I'm not here to review the Season 10 infantry or Season 10 cavalry hero, because we know that they are quite strong. They have a lot of application in the Season 10 meta. I'm here to really get a sense on the situation with the Season 10 Archer. Here we can see the Season 10 Archer being used to some effect. So he is able to beat the leftovers from Ken C. Let's take a look at the result. And let's take a look at the damage that the Season 10 Archer is able to deal to this, I would say, fairly non-conventional team as well. I've never really seen this team being used, like Kellerman with Lu Bu and Emperor Qing. It doesn't make much sense to me. But let's see the actual report. The stats look relatively comparable. And the Archer deals nothing interesting, I would say. If this was Leona or some of the more standard archers like Emperor Qing or maybe Khufu, they would either deal very little or a lot of damage. But this damage is interesting, but it's nothing impressive. I think once again the enemy team is just not very good. And this team is not very good either, from Almendros 666. But let's take a look at the actual report, and maybe we'll be able to see the Archer rage skill animation in this video, hopefully, maybe. So, okay. If there is an animation, it looks really, really small. I see that the infantry just kind of died. So I'm not too sure what exactly happened. But, yeah. This is just a weird team from Ken C. I'm not too sure what to make of it. And you can see that Emperor Qing was able to unleash a decent amount of damage, even though the infantry and cavalry died so quickly. But yeah, I think this is a weird team. But anyways, moving on to Warzone 6, RJ versus Caligula. I would say comparable players. RJ is actually using the Archer to some effect versus a fairly standard Season 9 team from Caligula. Let's see if the Archer was able to deal significant damage. Actually, here, did we finally find an application for the Season 10 Archer? But I mean, this is against Season 9 though, so it doesn't really have that excitement. Like, the whole design of Season 10 is to counter Season 9. So this, I don't know. This doesn't really give me like any indication that the Season 10 Archer is very, very good. Because if you, for example, you replace Neptune Arc with Jean of Arc, it will completely crush. Like, you replace Genghis Khan with Emperor Qing, it will completely crush the Season 19. But anyways, let's take a look at the report. But from this report, we can confirm that the Season 10 Archer is very, very good against a full season 9 team. So he is going to use his ultimate now. And it's like kind of a delayed animation. I want to see that animation again. So we can see that he launches his rage skill right now, and 3 seconds later. Oh, okay. Hmm. Is that the same animation as Khufu? That looked kind of weird. I'm pretty sure that was not Emperor Qing's animation. Let's take a look at that one last time. So Emperor Qing, I expect him to use his ultimate before this. Okay, so he launches his ultimate right now. That might be that animation might be from Emperor Qing. Yeah, it probably was from Emperor Qing. I'm not too sure what the animation from the season 10 Archer is. From the season 10 Archer's rage skill is, but yeah, it seems that I guess full season 9, or in this case, the season 9 infantry equipped with Michael's armor, the season 10 Archer is really, really effective. I'm gonna make note of that personally, but in the context of the meta itself, I don't think that's very interesting because season 10 is designed once again to counter season 9. Maybe that is the only composition that the developers have tested. They tested season 10 against season 9, tuned it so that it hard counters season 9, and then pat themselves in the back and called it a day. Yeah, Zay versus some random dude from 68. Well, this is certainly not a random dude because he is able to put up a fight against the mighty Zay. Very strong player. Oh, he beat Wandus. Very, very impressive. But anyways, yeah, nothing too interesting to analyze here. His first team is, I think, very weird. This is like, so the logic behind this team is kind of to counter the logic behind equipping the Chitaurian armament on the season 9 cavalry is to counter season 9. But I think his stats were just simply too low to be able to counter, and I think he used way too few archers to do that. The theory is basically in season 9 versus season 9, the archer deals a lot of damage to the opposing infantry in his first rage skill attack, and therefore you do not want to use too many infantry, or just use sufficient infantry to kind of survive the initial hit. If you cannot survive the initial hit, then just don't use too many infantry and load up on your cavalry as well as archer. Load up on enough archer so that your archer can kill his infantry in one hit. So if we took a look at the replay, what will definitely happen is that Zay's archer will kill his infantry in one hit. What I'm interested in seeing is whether his archer, like how much damage his archer can deal to Zay's infantry in the first rage skill attack. So let's take a look at that. The infantry actually did not die, which is interesting. But yeah, I think his stats were simply too low for Zay in this case. It took 2 hits, and yeah, the reason why he didn't die once again was excuse my surprise. I actually shouldn't be surprised because just earlier I said that the reason why you would use the Chitaurian's armament on the cavalry is so that your infantry does not immediately die to the opposing Emperor Qing. And the reason is because Chitaurian's passive skill number 1 confers 90% damage resistance to the infantry and cavalry during the first 15 seconds of the battle. But I think the issue with Mr. 68 here is that he did not use sufficient archer to be able to deal with Zay's infantry in time. But anyways, kudos to you for beating Wandus and putting up a fight versus Zay. I just want to take a look at a few additional battles because so far the only promising case is versus a full season 9 team, which is, in my opinion, not very interesting once again. Warzone 8. Yeah, not very interesting. I'm not too sure whether these players even have Season 10 heroes yet, but another thing that's happening in this game is that servers are experiencing accelerated content. So they are moving from Season 6 directly to Season 8, for example, or from Season 8 directly to Season 10. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, actually, before we end this video, this is quite interesting. Chemical Engineer, one of the strongest players in the game, also very close to maxed, versus some guy I do not know. But this looks to be fairly one-sided, especially if we take a look at the stats. It appears that whatever Daddy Split is running is countering Chemical Engineer's setup. So let's take a look at the Archer damage. The Archer actually deals a decent amount of damage, but at the same time, Daddy Split is running a very, very strange team. I would almost go as far as to say that this is kind of like a Season 6 setup or Season 7 setup that doesn't really work very well. So the fact that a random ass team beat this, I wouldn't call it meta, but you're using some of the best heroes across Season 9, Season 10. The fact that this team is losing so badly tells me that, yeah, the Season 10 Archer is really not carrying his burden here. Johnson versus Yoo-Hoo. Yeah, the Season 8 Cavalry, like whenever I see the Season 8 Cavalry, I expect him to do a decent amount of damage. And this is exactly what we see here. Even though he ends up winning, so whatever. But I don't think this is a very good composition because the Season 6 Infantry, what she's able to do, one of her specialties is empowering the infantry. She is able to confer, or I should say Horn God, he is able to confer a significant damage boost to the infantry. But because your infantry is not dealing any damage, this skill, because your infantry is not dealing any damage, the 250% final ferocity does absolutely nothing. So I don't think the Season 6 Archer really has much of a role together with the Season 10 Infantry. Anyways, in summary, the Season 10 Archer is in a very, very weird spot right now. He is not really able to deal, like his survivability is really, really bad. And he is not really able to deal any meaningful, not able to have any meaningful contributions to a majority of setup and against a majority of teams. So I hope everyone enjoyed my Apex Arena review focused on the Season 10 Archer. Was I just looking at this report earlier? I don't know, but yeah, this was Crimson Knight. If we take a look at Coffin Dancer, I'm kind of just running random teams here just to test things out. But are they running the exact same team? Okay, so I wasn't gaslighting myself, but yeah, the Season 10 Archer is just in a very weird spot. I think buffs are definitely warranted, especially considering how many players have put a lot of resources on the Season 10 Archer, and these Season 10 heroes are certainly not cheap. Comparable to Season 8 as well as Season 7, I believe, all of these heroes cost 1,450 fragments each to awaken. So definitely be careful on who you maxed first. Personally, I think I would max Jeanne of Arc first and foremost, although now I'm not too sure anymore because it's very apparent that her rage skill does not protect the Archer, at least based on the report that we've observed in our Apex Arena review. The Archer still died very easily to the opposing cavalry, even with Awakened Jeanne of Arc. So I'll probably ask the developers to check that. If that is actually a bug and it gets fixed, then we may see some more applicability for the Season 10 Archer. Although at the same time, the Season 10 Archer does not seem to do much damage at all versus anything that is not full Season 8. Yeah, it's very weird because if we take a look at the skills, like this is very, very standard. It reduces the melee infantry's final defense, which is pretty good. It basically makes them take 40% more damage. And this is just boosting his own rage skill charge speed. And this is the final defense. Okay, so this is more targeting the opposing cavalry and infantry, but I don't think this skill is very meaningful because the season 10 cavalry is just simply so strong. And this skill to me appears to be more geared towards going against season 9, for example. But anyways, I think this video has run long enough. I hope everyone enjoyed, and I hope everyone looks forward to my next video. Take care.